This is Life After Jazz Hands. 20 years ago, I graduated from musical theatre college and had ideas about how my life would look. I've since realised that our lives can take many unexpected twists and turns, and it got me thinking, what were my classmates' journeys also? So now I'm sitting down with them individually to hear about their stories and where they are at, 20 years on. Today's guest is the multi-skilled Amy Pemberton. We talk to Amy about the many fields of the industry she has conquered, amongst them musicals, voiceover, film and television, including DC's Legends of Tomorrow, but how along the way she has dealt with what life has thrown at her and how that has helped her to form who she is today. Without further ado, this is Life After Jazz Hands. Amy Pemberton, welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm really good. This is very exciting, by the way.
Isn't it nice?
It's really nice.
It's nice to come to a podcast studio. We do film this in a podcast studio, you can see.
It's really homely.
It is, and I think
live
it's
here.
I think it's, you can do podcasts from Zoom and at home, but it's just so nice to go somewhere and do it and feel a bit nicer and stuff.
Yeah.
So much to talk about today. You've covered so many areas of the industry, from theatre, film, television, voiceover, motion capture. Have you done that yet? You want to?
No, I feel like I've been this close and then never got
All
it.
motion capture. And now
PCAP I've done with like slightly different, but not motion cap. Yeah.
Okay, and now director and good friend, which I should add at the end. But I always like to go back to the beginning to start with this. But before I do, I like to share a memory of everyone. And these tend to be slightly older memories.
Okay.
And you know, the one that I thought of is when we were a few years out of college and you were living in Tooting and we were in your bedroom. And that's when something that we still do to this day, the Because of You thing, the Kelly Clarkson song.
Gosh.
That I was like, can you imagine that you were just in an audition, you had all this pent up anger and you were like, because of you!
I always tell people this and they're like,
it's not funny.
It's not funny for anyone else apart from me and you, apparently.
Yeah. Well, if anyone is listening, I hope you found that funny, because we do.
Because of...
Yeah. But I say that as a memory because it sums up, I suppose, our relationship, and our relationship is based around being silly and a lot of fun mainly, as well as support and care. But that's, why we have these connections. Go on.
And then 10 minutes after, we're like deep conversation.
Yeah, really deep
life,
conversation.
And then back to singing Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah,
and screaming.
absolutely. So I hope you enjoyed that, people. I don't know if I should have sung that. I might have to pay for that now.
Oh, God.
But anyway, so Amy Pemberton, I would like to go back to the beginning because I knew you, I think, from the age of 17. Mm-hmm. But even though we knew about each other's childhoods roughly, I didn't know, and I feel like it's such an important time in our lives and where we begin and find ourselves. Originally from Essex, and I'll leave the rest to you. So how would you describe Amy as a child, and just tell us a bit about your childhood?
Got out of Essex when I was 4.
Okay.
But still, obviously, Essex girl. And then moved to Suffolk with mum and dad. Yeah, when I was 4, and we actually moved to a farm, which was totally different from where my mum and dad had lived previously. Sorry, everyone, sorry. And had an amazing time. Like we were there for like 7 or 8 years. And it was incredible just living on a farm and just being outdoors all the time, and I just wanted to be with my brother all the time and be like my brother and just hang out, and very tomboy.
How was the farm? Because obviously you get different types of farms. Like sometimes it's that's what the family does in the business, but was it like an operational farm, or did you just...
It's more agricultural, but it was... Mum and dad took it over and it was not in a good place.
Yeah. And
then it was like sporadic, random things. It didn't really work. And then my dad was made redundant, so we had to move from that farm because it was too expensive to run. We had cows for a hot second, dairy herd. And like people would hire out barns and stuff for their animals, so it was amazing as a kid. And like goats and like horses, and I used to love it. Yeah. There's heaps going on, but it wasn't like a full working farm by any stretch. No,
it's so hard. I mean, it's very sad. You watch documentaries about people that run farms and stuff, and to keep them going, it's a lot harder than people think.
Yeah.
But then, so you moved to Suffolk. So would you say obviously because you were very young when you were in Essex, you kind of remember this. So, oh, sorry, was the farm in Suffolk or was it in Essex?
No, it's Suffolk. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really remember Essex.
Yeah.
But yeah, my main memories are Suffolk, and then we moved again and stayed in Suffolk, like literally 5 minutes down the road before I then moved to London at 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were your like interests or hobbies as a kid? Do you remember? Were you like? Because this is always interesting. Like we went to train something very specific, but it doesn't always mean that we're like that's what I want to do and that's what I have to do. Sometimes we fall into it, and sometimes we're doing that as well as other things.
Yeah, I loved dancing and singing around, but I never really took it seriously as a kid. I didn't go to dance class till I feel like I was like 10 or 11. I never did it I think I did ballet as a little tot and was like, no. I just want to be in wellies and like rolling around in mud. And then I remember our next door neighbour, she used to go to dance class and her mum couldn't take her one day. And she said to my mum, oh, Jan, can you just take Charlotte to class? And I had to go with her. I was like, ugh. And sat watching the ballet and was like, I'm so bored. And then I remember hearing next door, and I thought it was amazing, but that's not something I'd want to do.
No, but it's fine. You resonate with what you resonate with, right?
But now I have a different respect for it, and I think it's incredible. But as a kid, I was like, no. And then I remember hearing something going on next door, and it was the tap class. Mm-hmm. And I remember standing at the door and being like, I want to do that, I want to do that, I want to do that. And so I started doing tap as the first thing I trained in, and then from there I did jazz and things like that. But there were no performers in our family apart from my granddad was an amazing singer.
Yes, I remember
Amazing singer. And we used to sing like, we're a couple of swells at like, the village hall, whatever, the little town.
Do you know what's interesting? One thing you might not know is I interviewed Wayne 2 weeks ago and his granddad was the same. Said it wasn't like a professional thing, but his granddad was a jazz singer. And he used to get him to do a turn as well, yeah. I found that really interesting because I was like, oh my God, that's the same as Amy.
Well, that generation as well, the music we'd listen to, Nat King Cole and just, I mean, come on, like all the big greats from back then. Yeah. Like he was my mum's a beautiful singer too. She's gaining her confidence now. She's a beautiful singer. But so I think it's my mum's side of the family is where the vocals come from. My dad couldn't hold a note. And my brother can't sing either.
No, but it is very interesting. I mean, I remember you telling me that when a bit later on, but then I was like, oh, I find that stuff fascinating, whether obviously it is passed down to us or not. But I definitely think with your music, knowing your music taste and your influence, you do like stuff with soul. It has to have a bit of soul and something. Yeah. So, and I think that's always to do with your grounding, which is probably that. Mm-hmm. That's also interesting about that, because I bet everyone thinks, oh, Amy, she must have danced when she was 2. Do you know what I mean?
No.
All this stuff. So,
I wasn't good at it. Like, I remember, like, I was auditioning. It's funny because I'm teaching at performers right now in other colleges, and it's like, it's weird going back because I didn't get in there. And when I tell the dancers that story, they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, because my ballet technique wasn't good enough, right? And then I had to go away for a year, and then I studied harder for that year before auditioning again for arts and other places. But yeah, no, I had to work really hard.
Yeah, well, people take that as such a rejection if you don't get into drama college straight away or dance college. But sometimes it's not the right time, or it's just not the right place for you, as we know.
Was that Daniel Craig didn't get into WotC?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Rada?
WotC.
No, or was it
no,
Lambda?
Guildhall, right?
Oh, Guildhall.
And I was watching a talk at one of the professors the other day. It was really interesting. And he was saying that, it's like, Daniel Craig didn't get in the first time, and then he had to go away and work really hard for a year, come back again and keep getting no's until he got in.
Yeah.
And you go, there you go. It's just like part of the story.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, high school, and then obviously we get into like teen years. Were you like, oh, I have to go to drama college, I have to move to London, or did that just kind of happen?
I remember like gaining more interest in it, and then having a really lovely like social circle, like friends at dancing. Do you know what I mean? I used to love going to that, and we had an incredible teacher called Stacey Reeve Morgan, who was like, when we'd go to festivals, all her choreography was so incredible. Everyone would be like, who is this school? It was like us and Bodyworks, if that means anything to anyone. Yes. Like, Jeremy Bodyworks had a great school as well. So all those festivals or Stedfords, whatever you call them, Stacey's stuff would just be like, everyone would just love it and be like, who is this, who's this choreographer? She was incredible. So we were in really good hands with her, and I think her training just got me really ready for the next bit. Yeah. But I didn't really realise I could sing until I was about 15, 16. And I did it in high school, but I just didn't feel like I had a good enough voice. And I used to sit at the tape deck and record harmonies and then switch the tapes over so many times until obviously the quality was awful back then. You know, you were like layering harmonies, but I've always been obsessed with harmonies and vocal and a cappella stuff. And so that was kind of more where my interest went. And so then I was trying to find a college that I'd be able to sing at and still have that be a strong segment of the course.
Well, it's always interesting that, because I think, unfortunately, when we're younger, we're categorised, that person's a dancer, that person's a singer, that's right. So, and a lot of us can do all of it, or our strengths are not what you think they are as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It made me realise I was on a school trip once to segue to London, and I'd recorded over a Michael Jackson tape by mistake, and I thought, I'll just sing the bit in.
Brilliant.
And it was playing on the school trip, and it came out across the whole school bus.
What was the song?
I don't know, but it was it must have been like, it sounded like that, and I was just humiliated for the whole trip.
Oh no!
Because the whole school, and it's really funny now, I think.
Yeah, but it wasn't that bad, I bet.
No, it was.
Oh, okay.
It was terrible. Because I was anyway, like, I did learn to sing in church, and I was like a chorister, but then my voice broke, and I couldn't sing for years. So I think it was that period my voice was really screwed.
Oh.
Anyway.
But the love for it hadn't gone.
No, not at all. I mean, you know, I'm obsessed with music.
It's
always just was my love of music. But so then you get to, are you 16 or 17 when you went to college?
17.
Yeah.
17. Yeah, 17.
Yeah.
It was me and the two Stewarts that were 17.
One was 16. Yeah, I remember that.
And I remember it was just turning into a degree course. Like,
we were told in our third year that we're getting this degree. We were so lucky.
Well, that's what it was, and because you've got to be 18 when you start, right? And then my mum had to write to the uni and be like, hold on a minute, we're doing the same as everyone else, as are the Stewarts. You know, why do we have to walk away with not having a degree? And it was a whole
well, that's what was good about your mum being in the education system.
Yeah,
she had that firm.
Yeah.
So was mine.
Yeah,
so there you go.
Yeah.
So we don't want to focus on college for 2 years.
Yes.
2 years. No, we don't want to focus.
We were there longer than that. Long. How long were you there for?
But it was such an intense and personal experience. But it's really hard to say. And we made great friends. That's how I met you. But how would you sum up those 3 years?
Oh gosh, I mean, I worked my arse off.
Yeah.
Because I was chatting to my mum about this morning because I couldn't quite remember. I said, Mum, I remember that it was like I didn't get a full grant, or there was something where we were really, really tight for money. Because I think my dad had been made redundant. Mum basically had to take on an extra job. She was already like doing a huge job at a high school, like head of her year and department and all of that. And she took on something extra to get me through, and I knew how knackered she was. So I thought of my mum doing that just to get me through. We were saying this morning, so I think it was just like things were really tight, and I was trying to, pay for your accommodation, and like it's great getting in, and then it's like being able to even stay there and be there and everything else that I needed. And I then was like, I need to get a job, so I'd work every weekend and teach and perform whatever I had to do, like freestyling at Pasha or whatever it was. There was a group of us that did that for ages. I need the money. I just really felt for my mum, because Dad was struggling with his job, and it was stressful. And I remember just like, if there was a day when I hadn't got the routine down, or I hadn't got my double pirouettes or whatever it was, I would stay behind, because I can just, it was the drive anyway. But also I was like, I cannot, when I know how hard they're working to keep me here. Yeah.
And I think it's hard that, because a lot of people maybe saw you and went, oh, she's just so good. But people don't always see that extra work and know that. I mean, I didn't know that. I knew you worked hard. I would never deny that for you, because I saw that. But I didn't know you were staying behind after and doing all that and putting that pressure. And it is a very shared experience, that though. Like, everyone I've spoken to so far, no one found the financial situation easy, even if they were on scholarships, because there was so much more than that to pay for. Yeah. And it was so intense. I also, and I don't mind saying it because you won't be able to say this about yourself, you were put on quite a high pedestal at college. And I think that comes with a lot of pressure as you get older, that you realise that, oh, that's not all that. And due to your hard work, did you feel that from the college as well, or your peers? Or is it all to do with, God, my mum's working, dad's working so hard, so that's where your main thing came for?
That's a really good question. I think I kind of miss the drive that I don't have that same drive anymore. for numerous reasons. I have different drive and fire.
It has to run out a bit.
No. But you know when you're like, God, I really remember being like that young and so driven, just to do well, just to come out and like do everyone proud in the family, or you know, or at a point like do myself proud and get an agent and try and work and make this whole like journey worth it. You know what I mean? Not even worth it, because it's worth it no matter what. But I just mean because of how much everyone was working to like see me through it, I guess. There were some moments that were a bit tricky, and I knew certain things were said, or I overheard certain things, and I was like, like no, you never know what someone else has going on personally, do they? And that's just anything. That's just growing up, and but I didn't really feel pressure from anyone at college. I think it was more, I felt incredibly grateful and lucky to be given the opportunities that I was given, and then I just didn't want to muck that up. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I do remember though, like, I mean, we'll talk, what you've just said is very interesting, because really what you're talking about is perspective. I think a lot of our drive came from, I have to do this and this is what I'm doing, but then life happens and our perspectives change, so you can actually just take that pressure off yourself, because you go, it's not everything. No.
Exactly.
But then I also remember in the third year, the second show we did together, because the first show we'd done, you had so much pressure on you. And I remember you telling me, I'm loving this because I get to relax a bit more. Yeah. And that is really interesting, and that's...
Oh, it's just a chorus line. Yeah, right, yeah. That was amazing, but just full on, you know. And because of the part that it was,
and
you
this
know,
whole,
just like the stamina it took to even do like that dance bit was like... But again, super grateful and so lucky to even get to do it, right? So you're just like I could say it to you because you're a friend.
Yeah.
You just don't want to sound like you're complaining. You're like, I'm gonna crack on.
Yeah, well, but even back then I didn't see that, because I was like, well, yeah, it is pressure. It's a lot. I was never ready at that point to want to be in that actual limelight, if I'm honest.
Well, it's just exposing, right? It's, you know. Yeah. It's like, how exposing can it be? This is as exposing as it gets.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, at the time at college, I mean, this is interesting you're talking about. You were mainly seen as a dancer, because that, as I said, that's just how it was. But you had this like amazing voice that I think slowly crept up on people and went, oh wow, like Amy can really sing, which over the years has become more and more like you've, I think, become more comfortable with that. And I didn't even know you could play the piano or guitar till like about a year ago.
I can't really play it that well, but do you know what's weird though? Like, I don't know if it's like having a not choreographic brain, well, like a brain that can remember moves, right? So I like remember where my fingers are on the keys. I can't read music, I can't play, I couldn't just sit down and go, I can bang out some chords, but that took me, I remember I gave myself like a year to learn a piece, and it wasn't even that long, but I did it, and it looks like I can play, but I can't. Yeah. I mean, like, I can, but I can't. Does that make sense?
Yes,
like if I work on like where my hands are and all that, I can do it.
But everyone learns in a different way, don't they? A lot of people are self-taught anyway.
Yeah, that might sound like a bit of a dumb thing to say, but
no,
do you know
it's
what I mean?
Not.
Like,
it's not.
It's not. I didn't learn musically. I didn't study. I did study music, and I nearly failed it at school because I didn't know the theory of it all.
Yeah, but music at school is not that creative.
So
let's be
honest. Those anthologies, I've got people playing like all these amazing classical things. I'm like,
that's
singing. Instead.
That's hard. Like, how do you teach the arts? Like, even drama at school when we were there, it was like a lot of it was about written stuff as well. And to me, it's all about practical. But anyway, that's a whole other situation. So fast forward to the end of college. What were your expectations leaving college versus the reality? And basically, what happened? Did you leave slightly early? I can't remember.
I feel like.
No, you were there.
I was there, but I'd got like a kids show called The Misty Show. Yeah. Lovely Ollie and Ash and Laura and Danny and that lot. So nice. That was my first experience of television, and so I think I was doing that. I think I did a couple of days on that, but was still at college or something. But no, I graduated at the same time.
So your first job was television, which is interesting. After it wasn't the main focus at college, really. Because
the first thing because I'd got my agent from a chorus line. I'm remembering this now. And that's Michael Cronin, God bless him. He passed away a while ago now, but he was amazing, and he brought all these amazing opportunities. I felt so lucky, and it was like a new BBC. It was a Saturday morning show. It was meant to be a bit like Live and Kicking, or do you know what I mean? Do you remember it?
Yeah.
They were great, but it ended up having. It was meant to be like a girl band thing, and so that's why I went in and sang, and then it all changed.
Yeah.
And I got right down for that, and then they just switched it out, and they changed the whole concept, and I ended up, because I'd been in so much, they're like, do you want to be a little role in the acting side of it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was a fairy for a while, which is great.
You remember your experience on that?
Yeah, I do. I actually remember it quite vividly because it was the first time, and because we were shooting next to EastEnders and Holby, I remember sitting there being like, oh wow, these, just people you've seen on the telly for years, and just learning the very first starting point of learning marks and how cameras work and shots and the whole thing.
Did you find it quite natural? Were you like, oh, I like this. This is what
I really liked it. I really liked it, but I remember not really. I remember when the director said to me, like, you've just got to really listen and you're going to do great. I was like, was I not listening then? I think I was probably a bit like too stressed and maybe not taking on board what he said, and I'll never forget he said that to me. He said, as long as you listen, you're going to do really well. I was like, oh, okay. And I don't feel like I listen. I'm not like,
no, you're not.
People. But I thought it was just because maybe I'm just in my head and not really.
It was probably overwhelming though. If you'd gone straight into theatre, you would have felt more just like natural with it because you've been doing that for 3 years.
Yeah. So it was interesting.
And from there, was your then experience? Were you doing like TV, then theatre and film and TV?
From that, it was a lot of kids' television, because I think once you're in that world, you know what it's like. They're like, oh great, you've done that. You get seen for the next thing, which was great. And then I did was it the other way around? No, we auditioned for it at college. It was like a Channel 5 presenting show for preschool. Yeah. And I remember doing that, and I was terrible. And I remember them pulling me aside and being like, can you just like tone down the facial expressions? I was like so animated. I'm like, this is a kid's show. What do you mean tone down the facial expressions? So I remember watching it going, oh, they're right. So it's always like learning.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And then like one-offs of Basil Brush and My Parents Are Aliens and all these like kids shows that I then went, hold on a minute. I remember being in Glasgow doing Woolloomooloo, that presenting show that I was awful in, and seeing Layla do Fame. She was doing Carmen in Fame and The Kings. So I remember going to that going, oh, this is amazing. And I was so chuffed for everyone in it. I went, I want to do that now. I want to try and get that now.
Yeah, well, I also think when we've trained in that and we know, I mean, it's up to us, but we do have limited time with dance and what we can do. Yeah. We kind of be like, well, I should do that now.
I should do that now, quick.
Going back to Woolloomooloo, though, you were, was it Glasgow? Yeah. You were in Glasgow and you were just going to a hotel every night. And that's quite a tough reality to face when people, the first thing of, oh, this isn't that glamorous, and it's also quite lonely.
Yeah, I was pretty lonely. I mean, the puppeteers on it were amazing. And isn't it weird? I just did a job this year and there was a puppet in that as well, totally different. But they knew the same puppeteers from like how many years ago. I was like, what? This is crazy, like such a small world. But yeah. What am I saying?
Just about being in a...
Sorry, I just started thinking about puppets.
No, it's fine. Just about being in a hotel and the isolation of that almost. Instead of being in a cast where you're all together all the time and having fun, if you're living in London, you're going to your own flat.
Yeah. Yeah, I was back and forth from London a lot. And they were lovely, but I was like no one my age, and it was just...
Yeah.
But again, like I remember, I'm still in touch with my makeup artist and that. She's incredible, and she's become a friend, and just, and a big learning curve.
Yeah. Again,
with presenting, I went, oh yeah. And then when I worked with Cheryl Baker on Footloose, I talked to her about it, because obviously she's an incredible presenter. And she's like, it's just there is a technique to it, and there, but she said she's just naturally got it. But she said, but you weren't trying to be yourself, you were being like a character in the show. And I was like, yeah, but I just don't think it's my bag. I can't do it. I can't present.
Yeah, it's
very special. People
so
that have
different.
got that knack to present is I couldn't do it.
But it's very, I mean, being a presenter, I think you've got to be comfortable with yourself first, and not that many people are fully comfortable with who they are at that age.
No, I'm still finding it. I find it hard to like. I mean, this is comfortable because I'm with you, but sometimes in interviews, I get a bit like, oh, am I saying? Of course. I get a bit fidgety and weird. I'm like, oh, am I being really boring? Am I, yeah.
So, you then obviously did do some theatre, which we'll talk about, but along the way, was your perspective on what you were doing and work changing a bit? Or were you still like, oh, I absolutely have to do this, it's my number one focus? Or was life also happening?
There was a lot going on, but you just made me think of something like when you said about expectations. Like, I loved the commercial world of dance so much. But it had to be a decision of like, you go down that route or you go the route that was being like shown, like with the kids' TV and stuff like that. But and I remember I said this to Kate Prince a while back now, because we kept in touch after working together at college, and I was just like, oh, I just so missed that. Like, I love that style of dance, and I feel like I've kind of let that ship sail. Like, I mean, I can go and do class, but you know, I miss that. So I think I hoped that I would have gone down that route a little bit more and experienced that, but my gosh, I felt so lucky that I was doing
you were very natural at it, and you also had, as going back to your training, you had this like training that was a bit ahead of its time in Suffolk, really, didn't you?
Because of Stacey,
yeah,
she's amazing.
Because she was from America, where they're a bit ahead with all that. But yeah, that is a tough one, and you were incredibly natural and good at it. But that the problem without sounding weird, is like when you're good at more than one thing, that's when you do have to make choices sometimes. You can do everything, but dance not completely is completely limiting forever, because we know people in their 50s that are still dancing in hats.
Oh, totally.
Off to them.
Yeah, 100%.
But, you know, it is, things happen to bodies and change.
Well, for me, it's more been from stuff that happened and fatigue and that kind of stuff. I don't think my body could do just
handle it.
Stuff back then, but which we'll end up talking about today, I'm sure. But yeah, I didn't mean that to sound like, I had all these opportunities. Like, starting out, yes, I was very lucky they did, and then it all very much changed. And,
but it was a passion of yours, wasn't it?
Huge passion, yeah. And I was looking at going to the States when I left college to try and go like to Edge and go to those places and do all that, and then I just couldn't afford it. Couldn't afford to go, and it's like, right, I need to concentrate on what's in front of me.
Yeah. I always wanted to go to, is it Broadway, Steps in Broadway? I even thought of college going there, because I was the same. I felt like I wasn't done with my dance training.
Yeah. Well, because we loved it so much. Just loved it.
Yeah.
You know, I know you did too. It's, you know, you want to carry it on.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, obviously, you're auditioning stuff, you're doing shows and things, but then, I suppose, Footloose. I always remember you calling me when you said you'd got that. And was that like, oh, this is amazing, and finally you've kind of got...
Yeah, it was a funny experience, that, because lovely Lorna Want, who's such a dream and so talented, she was playing Ariel at the time opposite Derek Hough, and they had this amazing cast. They've been on tour together and they've come into town, so they were like really good group of mates and like really good energy. And then Lorna was moving on to do Love Never Dies, and they needed to just find an Ariel. I remember they were really stressed, like searching for someone who could, like, they were trying to find someone that could dance, could do the accent, and could sing pop. And they were really struggling to find someone at the time, for whatever reason. And I remember going in on the day, and I was getting called back in. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they offered it to me that night, I think, because they were just so stressed because they hadn't found someone, and they would like, I think I started rehearsing the next week. But by that point, my dad had been diagnosed not long before that. And I do remember going straight from the audition straight back to Suffolk to tell him. And he was just like, oh my gosh, it's so exciting. You know, everything we've been working for, you know, I've been working for, but what they'd been working so hard to put me through college, they were like, oh my gosh, finally, like, we'll get to see
wonderful. It's wonderful telling people that have supported us that we've achieved stuff, and
it was a nice moment. I'll never forget that. And then he couldn't come to my opening night because he was really poorly, but then he came to my last night, and I remember like he like heaved himself. He was in the dress circle, and all the cast by this point knew what was going on. I didn't really want to go into the contract being like, this is going on, because I just didn't want anyone to think I couldn't do it. Yeah. Which now in hindsight I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous. I could have just said, this is going on, I'm okay, but just to let you know this is going on. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
But we were kind of, I don't mind saying, we were kind of trained in that way, weren't we? To just
get on,
keep going.
Which is good.
And also then we put that pressure on ourselves, because people didn't talk about being kind to yourself as much back then, did they?
Well, it's the knock-on effect that those things have. We're not superhuman, do you know what I mean? And those things happen, and it's okay. Yeah. To talk about it and go, you know what, I'm struggling. Yeah. I need to be off for a minute. It's okay. Like, it's a show. Yeah.
And what was your experience on that show? What do you remember as a first experience of being in the West End as a lead? How was that? Was it what you expected, or was it harder? Was it easier?
I mean, it's a bit of a blur for me because of Dad's stuff, I think. I remember rehearsing at Pineapple with Derek, and I had all of like 2 days to do it, and then the whole cast came in, and no one knew about what was going on at home. And I remember like running to my phone, like practicing stuff in the mirror, and then knowing that my dad's in an operation, going, God, I need to like when like looking at the clock, when can I get on the phone to see? And then he called me and he left me a message going, I'm all right, I'm out, I'm having a cup of tea, I'm fine. I was like, and then I could just kind of get on with the day, and I knew I was heading up that night to see him anyway. But so it's all a bit of a blur. I can't really remember much about it.
So already you were being hit with a lot of perspective at quite a young age.
Yeah.
With that, and this is what I
Yeah.
think your story is very interesting, because I've been aware of this and known this, and maybe not everyone does, and I think it's good for people to hear it and know even if it helps people, because sometimes people are going through a lot of stuff that are in shows and things and putting that pressure on themselves to feel like, why am I not as present and why am I not enjoying myself as much? But unfortunately, that's life.
Well, there's two sides to it, right? It's like, it's good to have something to focus on and go in and do. I think that was really healthy for my brain to have like a focus. Even though that was going on at home, I got to go to work and make some money and still do what I love to do. Yes, it was maybe harder than it would have been if that wasn't going on, but there's always something going on, isn't there?
Yeah.
In life, you know, you've got to go, okay, just get on. So it was hard, but I've got a lot of fond memories, and I did love it.
Yeah.
I loved it, like the buzz of it. I can remember like when the show first kicks off, and I just like I can't believe I'm doing it.
But it's so like it was so a you show. Like I always say, like you and me always kind of love the more modern stuff.
The poppy.
And our two other friends are like much more the old traditional stuff.
Right, yeah. I love all that. I just don't feel good at it.
Me too, same, exactly. I just don't feel like I'm good at it.
Yeah, same.
So after Footloose, I mean, I remember hanging out with you a lot of this time, friends. Yeah. What happened then? I don't know your exact timeline. Were you back to TV or were you back to theatre again?
It's a really good question. Footloose, I think then I came up for a while, I did little bits of TV. I remember not really getting anything for a long time. Like, I feel like my career's been so bitsy, and I'm, again, super grateful for it all.
You are allowed to say that, though. It has been.
No.
It has been. It's been like... This is what I said to you the other day. Everyone always thinks, whether it's you or someone else, like, Amy's always worked, she's done so well, but they don't know about all of the time of where Amy was dressed as a little weird mannequin thing, like walking down the street.
The other day.
All the jobs
do you remember
we
when
did.
We did that tango upside down thing, and we had to like do headstands, like in an orange bikini and you're in orange trunks, like.
Oh, we have to actually tell this story. There was an upside down tango camp coming out, which meant that you had to open it at the bottom, so it was confusing. And we had to go around famous London landmarks fully. Were we sprayed with orange, or were we just in orange clothes?
You had orange trunks on.
Oh,
and
I
had an orange bikini on.
And we had to do headstands. Like, we did it in the Tate Modern. We did it on the Millennium Bridge.
On the tube.
And what was funny is I remember them saying, you have to actually be able to do a headstand though. Don't just say it if you can get work. And there were about 5 people that actually just couldn't do a headstand and get falling over. And I was like, I can kind of do one. But I thought it was really good.
I got nervous though. I was like, don't fall over.
I was really proud of myself because I kind of learnt to do a headstand that day.
Did you?
Well, I just wasn't that confident.
We had those bits of sponge as well. We had to carry those. Wasn't it? What do they call it? Flash mob? Not a flash mob, but
it was.
What do you call it? And then we had to be like walking around the Tate and then whip our coats.
We should actually mention Ministry of Fun because they gave us a lot of opportunity to make money when we weren't working.
Without Ministry of Fun, I don't know what I would
crazy jobs that we've done.
And it was always really fun.
Yeah.
And because I was with you or people that I knew, and I still have friends from that time. Like,
we always got people in, didn't we? Like Philip Coyle and Adam Hills, actually, all these people that actually did it with us. But that's, this is what this podcast is just much about, all the stuff we did in between. I mean, just quickly walk us through what jobs you did to survive in between.
Oh my gosh, okay. I did loads of skin work because I'm short.
Yeah.
So I'd fit in like Astro Boy.
Yeah.
Because
explain what skin work is.
Skin work. So you're getting in a costume, or like, I did Theodore for Alvin and the Chipmunks.
I remember Astro Boy. I've got a photo of that somewhere.
I know. You've got this one. So yeah, like being inside of costumes. Does that make sense? Like skin work. But I remember doing that, and I remember. Oh my gosh, it's making me think of so many things. I remember I'd auditioned for Casualty, and then I'd got a recall and had to go and do a chemistry test for it with the other actor just to see, if we were a good fit or whatever. And the call came through when I was being Theodore, like in Manchester or something like that, being Theodore. And I remember calling Michael, and I was like, Michael, I can't get to the audition because I'm actually up north doing a job. He's like, well, you have to get there because the chemistry testing. I'm like, yeah, but I couldn't get anyone to cover me. He's like, so let me get this straight. You're not going to go to your chemistry test for casualty because you're being Theodore from Alvin and the Chipmunks. And I was like, yes, because I can't get anyone to cover me, and like the size of the suit and all this stuff. And like, I couldn't go. And I remember being really gutted. And it was my birthday as well. Oh, God. I was like, why?
It's so hard that though, isn't it? Because I think sometimes performers and actors when they're young, obviously that has to be our priority. But when you're working for a company, they are still a company and they're just as valid that they're trying to make money. So if you just go, I can't do it today.
I couldn't leave them in the lurch. They were going to be screwed. Like, how could I just left?
and then you don't work for them again, and then you don't have any in-between work. It's the hardest balance.
Yeah.
That to not upset people on both sides. But
yeah, definitely.
That's
just one of many.
Yeah.
But,
people would probably never think you've done that, but then I think it just goes to your character because, truth be told, knowing you are, you're just quite silly and just like, oh yeah, I'll do that.
I was like, yeah, just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the next thing I probably want to come to is you did Jersey Boys in London from London premiere, which was a massive thing when it came.
Yeah.
But I know yet again you were going through a lot when that was going on.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for that job for so many reasons. Like, I made a lot of good friends in that show.
Yeah. And
we I think ended up doing it for like 13 months all up or something, including rehearsals, and it was great. And look, the pressure wasn't on as much because I wasn't one of the boys, and it was an interesting show for the girls. If anyone that's watched it will know exactly what I mean. I mean, it's a busy show.
Yeah.
You're running around the whole time. There's how many 20-something wig changes, and it's bonkers. But I just really appreciate meeting that set of people at that time in my life, because that's when Dad was dying, and he passed just after I finished the contract. So it was weird, but like I was upfront about that at that point. I was like, this is what's going on, and I was doing a lot of charity work for Headway, the Brain Injury Association, which I'm patron of, which is where Dad used to go, and they were brilliant. I'm actually about to do something for them next weekend again, which is nice. And so we were doing bucket collections, and everyone was just like really supportive and kind.
Yes. I think the cast was slightly more mature as well, which, not to say that people that are juvenile or younger aren't, but people do have that perspective a bit more.
Well, Glenn Carter, who was playing Tommy, he's lost both of his parents to brain injuries, and it was just we connected over that in a way, and he was really helpful with everything, and great show though.
Yeah, but just what you have to do. I mean, you were doing shows Monday to Saturday, and then I always remember Sunday morning you'd always drive home, wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. And then you'd have to drive back again on Monday.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Just like,
well, because your time's limited.
Yeah.
So you're like that, and that's stressful too. That's when I started to get a little bit of the stage fright thing coming in. Like, I think the stress got the better of me. I remember going on one night and having a moment going, I can't. Like, it just started. I was like, I can't do this. I went off mid-show, which I've never done. And poor Ryan had like one Lorraine, and then I remember Lucinda Gill came on like 10 minutes later, and he's like, what's going on? But yeah, I was like, okay, I've just got to admit that I can't do this right now.
Yeah.
And it's okay. I need to go home.
Yeah. And no one spoke about that stuff as much. Like, people were kind, but it wasn't like spoken about as much. So it's good that you just did listen to yourself and go,
yeah, but I had to, because my body wasn't doing it. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to go too much into grief, because I know you've spoken about this to a lot of people before, and recently another podcast that you did with Sinead, which we will...
It's a great podcast. Everyone needs to listen to Sinead's stuff's brilliant.
Yeah.
Bottled Up.
Please listen to it.
Yeah, please.
But losing your dad, and your dad passing away, you were so close to him, and he was so jolly and lovely. How was that experience of then, I suppose, having to pick yourself up again and carry on after that? Was everything very different?
Yeah, it was different. Oh, I've gone.
No, it's fine.
No. Yeah, because I just remember like trying to kick on, and we've got friends going through this right now, haven't we?
Yes.
Which is really, really tough. Like, I remember just going, right, I'm just gonna like took a job at Edinburgh, and like I hated it. I wish I'd just stayed at home. Again, like that thing of, I'm just gonna crack on. I was like, I didn't give myself the time that I should have taken to like. Yeah. And it's just interesting in hindsight what I'd have done differently around that time. I was still around loads, like, I was only there for like 5 weeks or whatever Edinburgh was, but I think I just wanted to escape for a minute, and actually I should have just kind of like giving myself time to
Yeah.
not work and stay. But yeah, it changed my perspective on a lot of things in life and what was important to me and what I wanted to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's different for everyone, but I think that is really helpful to hear that if someone is going through it and they are thinking, I should take this job, but they know they're going to struggle, then it's okay to do that. And some people feel better being distracted.
Totally.
And
which I think it did help in some ways with that. Yeah, for sure. It's just figuring out, until you take it, you don't really know. You're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this. But that's okay.
And I think you were the first person in our friendship group to go through that, which is something so hard. And I feel like, it's no point looking back, but I always look back and go, God, I wish I'd been more mature at the time and supported you more, even though I did support you.
No, you really did.
But it's, I feel like so much more grateful to have my parents around now because of that and what's people going through, because it's become such a common thing and such a common thing that people share.
Yeah.
That we know.
Yeah.
And then gonna forward on quickly to you getting Rock of Ages, which yet again you called me because I was like, you have to, because I'd seen it and I was like, you have to do this show, I love it.
It's a great show. It's so fun. What a great show.
Yeah. So I know a lot of stuff happened in between that anyway and stuff was going on, but obviously you got that show and it's great and it's proud, and then rehearsals hit, and tell me the story of what happened there, because this is just yet another thing of, great success, another obstacle.
Yeah. And the whole way through I was trying to do the right thing, right? So I remember going into rehearsals going, I feel a bit weird. I feel I'm probably just like anxious and, it's a big deal. I've not worked in a really long time. It's like still grieving. This is 2 years on from Dad passing and that whole thing. And I thought, right, I'm just going to get myself checked out at the doctors because I don't want to start this contract going, can I even do this job? So I took myself, 4 different doctors are like, you're just anxious, you're grieving still, you're anxious. I'm like, yeah, all of that. But I feel weird, and I'm feeling really like spaced out and I'm struggling to focus. Anyway, I get through rehearsals, we were into previews at this point, I can't eat anything. And I'm like, okay, everyone's telling me I'm anxious, and now I'm like, well, I'm just anxious then, this is what's going on.
And don't get me wrong, I remember you telling me, and I thought, even myself, I thought, maybe she's just, really nervous. And this is the thing where...
That was part of it.
You just don't... Yeah, and you just don't know actually what is going on. Like, listen to people.
I know, yeah. And the most important thing, listen to your body as well. I think that's hard with anxiety, right? Because you're like, but it feels so... Like, is it that or is it something else? But I knew in my gut, I knew there was something else going on. And so then I get into previews, and then Steve Burnett comes in, our company manager, said to me, you don't think you've got glandular fever, do you? And I'm like... Well, my glands aren't up, and no, I don't think so. I'm singing the show not as well as I normally would, but I'm singing it still. And no, I just feel like I'm seeing double of Ollie Thompson, like clinging onto Ollie for dear life, seeing double going, is this really anxiety? Like, I know anxiety really well, and I'm a nervy performer, not that anyone would ever know, but I struggle with that. So I don't think it is just, do you know what I mean? Anyway, so then he said, right, let's go and see the company doctor and we'll do some tests. And he just like ran loads of bloods. And then it came back saying he had like strong, like EBV, Epstein-Barr virus. He said, you've had glandular fever, it's kind of, you've gone through the worst of it, but because you pushed through it, you've given yourself a mild chronic fatigue syndrome. And if you push it even more, you'll end up with ME. And I was like, what?
Wow.
What? He's like, that's what you've got. I was like, I'm so grateful to get a diagnosis, because I'm just going, here I am, I'm just anxious. And everyone's going, she's just anxious, she just can't handle it.
And how nice that you can have the company manager thank for that, because sometimes you never know who you are going to get, and
I never would have checked that out.
No.
Never would have checked that. Why would I have checked that out?
Yeah. So
awful.
What's the? I mean, it's quite a pretty crazy story. What happened, and when you sadly had to leave that job?
My understudy was amazing, Natalie Andrio. She was incredible. I remember just saying to her, "Nah, I think you got to get this together real quick, because I've got to go off. I can feel it. Like, this isn't good." She's like, "What?" And I was like, yeah, she's like, okay. She was on it. And she went on in preview. She was amazing. I was trying to rest as much as I could to get ready for press night. And I remember press night going, I'd got nothing left by that point. I couldn't eat anything. And I remember going to the doctors, getting like B12 shots, got through the show. And I remember my like legs were like buckling towards the end. I was like, I just remember like in the finale going, oh my God, what is happening? And then got into the wings and I just kind of like keeled over. And then lovely Johnny Power, who I know from Jersey Boys as well, like, did a million jobs and was at the side of the stage going, enough is enough, like, enough. because I just went, and he was like, this is ridiculous, like, no more. Yeah, and then I never went back. I tried, and I remember taking myself back in to sing at the side of the stage just to try and sing the backing vocals, and I was just dizzy, and by that point, I should have been better. So now I don't really know if that was, I was still fatigued from the virus, or if I just let it get the better of me, and I've not been really back on stage since.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't even sit in a theatre for years. I'd like, my palms would sweat, and it was a whole thing. I was like, no, just bizarre, like,
that's like trauma.
Yeah.
It's a form of trauma, really, isn't it?
I remember Justin Lee Collins saying to me, I can't do his accent, but he's like, darling, it's just a show, go home.
Yeah.
I was like, but I haven't worked in forever, and I haven't got any money, and he's like, it's just a show, like, your health is so much more important. And I was just in bed for a yonks, Mum had to come and, like, feed me. I couldn't lift my arms up, and I was like, what the, it's just so bizarre.
And to tell the story, weren't there, just remember, like, to backtrack, there was 2 press nights, right? There's one for the actual press, and there was
press
one
night
for
and gala night.
And you did
press
night, and then
night.
The gala night was the next night, and you left after the press night.
Yeah, I left after press night. Couldn't do it. Yeah, it was.
And then, so
weird.
what was your experience of recovery through that? Because your memory.
Awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then and then wondering how much of it was just anxiety after months and months and months and months. I remember being able to walk up an escalator and being like, done it, because I'd normally be like, just what it takes out of you is very odd.
Wow.
I never knew it could do that. You normally get that when you're, what's the most common thing when you're at school, 16, 17, taking exams? It's very common, isn't it? People, I was like 27 getting it going.
I always remember people at school having it and being off for months.
I know loads of people that had it at school. They're really poorly, but not like months and months and months and months and months. And they're like, wow, you're grieving your dad. And I'm like, I'm pretty strong, like, in terms of stamina. So I was shocked at how hard it hit me.
Yeah.
But it's the best thing not the best thing that could happen to me, but I learned a lot in that time.
Yeah.
About myself and about all sorts of things, and was like, okay, who my friends were, and like
hit with these like 3 massive doses of perspective, really, again and again and again. This is what's crazy, like I feel like on every big job you do in the West End. But then you did make the showbiz move to LA. Was that what I don't even know when that decision happened. So
here's something that I was like this because it was just like, again, really humbling, but I do feel like I'm a very humble person, so I don't know why it was happening, but I just remember being back up on my feet, and I thought, right, I think I took a leafleting job. I can't remember if it was for ministry or what it was. Can't remember what it was for. And I was like, I'm going to walk around by the Shaftesbury Theatre just because I just wanted to go and see it. I'd not been around there for ages, and thought, because the show was still on, and I remember like walking up there and seeing all the posters still up, some of my stuff still up, and going, oh, that's weird, like, I was meant to do that. And I don't know if I could hear the show going on or if it was a recording of the show, but I remember hearing it, and it wasn't my voice, so I think it was Nat's, and I remember being like, that's weird, and like trying to hand out leaflets to people with people just ignoring me. I was like, okay. And then my partner at the time, his ex-girlfriend was the lead in Step Up 3D.
Yeah. And
it had just come out, and it was on the buses, and I promise you, I remember looking at the theatre going, people ignoring me. And then I looked at the bus, and it was Shani on the thing, like, Step Up 3D, and I was like, oh, for God's sake, what? Okay, cool. And I remember thinking, I've got to make this move to the States.
Yeah.
Because we've been talking about it anyway, and I just, like, that time that I was in bed, I was, like, using the time to get references together and just, like, type, because I could type at least.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I was like, right, get those together. And then I remember that moment being like, I'm done, I'm out, like...
Yeah. And I think when I look back now that you did it, I think... so good you did it. You'll never look back and say... I couldn't
get a job here.
And also you'll never look back and say, oh, I wish I'd done that, because you did do it. And LA's just as hard, but
it's a whole other thing,
it did also, give stuff to your career, and you met some amazing friends for life there. But
yeah, and you'd been out numerous times, and you'd spent time with those people.
I came out with you for the first time when you just moved there, and to be honest, the first time I came out, I was horrified.
Well, yeah,
I was like, it's just like... just not what you expect the first time you go, is it? I'm like, where's
no, it isn't. I know.
The red carpets? Where's this? When I went to Hollywood Boulevard, I was like...
oh, that's weird.
I was just trying to find somewhere to eat breakfast, and it was open, and I was like, this cannot be it.
Hooters, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what you got.
I did go to like one of those horrible like tacky diners. It was the only thing open.
Yeah.
But funny, because the second time I went to LA, you were more like... settled there, and you had a lot of friends, and that was one of the best holidays of my life. But
really
tell us about your experience of moving to LA, what people see it as, the positives, the negatives. what it gave you, and the jobs.
I just remember feeling like, where's the hub? Like, where's the life? Where's the middle? Like, what's going on?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I didn't drive. I mean, I drove, but I didn't have my American license, and
Yeah.
I'd outstayed on my whatever license. So I was like, so I started getting buses everywhere, which is a whole experience. And then finally found Studio City and was like, oh, there's a bit of a hub.
Yes.
And then I stayed out of Hollywood and like that area and over the hill and stayed, in suburbia.
Yeah.
So my main thing was like realising how bizarre it was. And I remember I was staying in North Hollywood, and then I got a gig through Cameron Nielsen,
Yes.
set me up with a company. I was just singing, so it wasn't like, at that point, too scary. And no one knew me out there, so I thought I'd try and do this gig and make some money and get back up. But you came to one.
Yeah.
You came to that.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah. So it was that. And I remember walking all the way there. It took me like 50 minutes to walk it. And in a car, it's like 10 minutes. It's just because it's so, the blocks are so huge. And I just remember walking going, this is so weird. It's like desert. Just so different from here.
It is.
So I'm thinking, what a weird... And then you're in a dance studio, like, oh, I'm in a dance studio now, cool. But then you walk out and it's like arid and dry and just weird.
Yeah, I remember walking from Studio City to Sherman, and I think someone actually did pull the window down, ask if I was okay.
Why are you walking?
Yeah, because I'm just used to... And I mean, I was sweating because it was hot, but I'm like, well, this is what I do, so I'm not going to get like an Uber or anything.
It's expensive. Like, I remember getting a bus from... that area right down to Culver City, which is far, for a meeting, trying to get management. And they were like, how did you get here? And I was like, oh, I got on a bus. And they're like, you do what? I was like, I got on a bus. They're like, why? I was like, because I got no money and I have to get on a bus. I can't afford to get a cab. And like, we'll get you a cab back. I was like, no. I felt really weird. I was like, yeah. Like, please don't get on a bus.
No. But and then obviously you did that gig in Palm Springs, which was nice. It was the first time it's a nice story that I went and I got there and you were like, oh, I feel so bad, Matthew. I've just got a job. So I'd come to visit you and you got a job as I got there and you felt bad, but I was like, fine, because actually what happened was we got to go to Palm Springs for free and stay in the Hard Rock Hotel. So actually,
yeah, we did.
I'll always remember that. I don't know if I'll ever go back to Palm Springs personally. It's quite bizarre.
Yeah.
Some people love it, but I'm so pleased I went.
I love it.
Just to hear about it and stuff. But
yeah.
And then you did find people in LA, didn't you?
Yeah, I knew Cameron, which is lovely. And Darren Jacobs, which is lovely. Yeah, there was a few people that I knew from home. Thank goodness, because it wasn't like I didn't know anyone. Yeah. And people were like in and out, visiting and but it took a while to find people. And through that job I met Victor, a good friend of mine, and then it just kind of expanded from there. But I was there 10 years nearly, so...
We haven't really spoken about your voiceover work. Like, when did you start doing voice jobs, actually?
Off the back of Footloose, Jason Hagellery, the producer, had said to me one day, oh, I work for this company called Big Finish, you do Doctor Who, and, I think you'd be really good for this role. We're looking for a companion for Sylvester McCoy. And I was like, wait, what? And he said, do you want to read for it? So I did, and I got it. And then I ended up doing that for 5 years, playing his companion. And off the back of that sci-fi world, bred numerous jobs out in the States because they love the Brits and love the BBC and all that kind of stuff. So it took me a really long time. I didn't get a voice job for a good year and a half. I didn't really work about a year and a half in LA, like little gigs and promo stuff. Yeah. And then I got my first voice thing, which was stunt singing, which I never knew was a job. So celebs that don't sing or don't want to sing or are uncomfortable singing, can you match their voice? Can you sound like them singing? It feels a bit thankless, but you're like, no, this is great. I'm learning and I'm getting to know casting people. And from that job, that woman cast me in like 6 other things.
But then it's so funny because, would you say like voiceover work's been out of the job? Has it been your main income, really?
Yeah,
would you say,
100%.
I'm sorry, we've only just got to it,
No.
like towards the end of the interview, that it's actually been...
Oh, it's been my saving grace. Yeah, it's been brilliant.
But you are brilliant at accents. Not everyone is. People sometimes think they are and they're not. And you're very good at voices, so I think that's why and you can sing, so it all kind of just, this is perfect for me.
There's some people are like, universe, whatever, but I really felt like the universe was looking after me because I didn't have the energy. I couldn't be on set, I couldn't do a show, really. I didn't have much energy still. Yeah. And I get fatigued really, really quickly, so getting the chance to be in a voiceover studio and it's a 4-hour session max, maybe 2, get it done in 2. I used to get through stuff quite quickly. I was like, I can do that, great. So that's how I'm going to have to make my money. That's what I need to now focus on and try and make more contacts. And
Yeah.
it was brilliant. I learned so much, and now I feel like I know it really well now after a decade of doing it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, and every college I teach at, I'm like, look into the voice world, make sure you get a voice reel if you're interested in that kind of stuff, because it will keep you afloat.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
I never realised that stunt singing was a thing, or
No, I didn't.
what's ADR. Like, you know, I've voiced movies for people that in dubbed, and like, yeah, it's a whole different.
And we also need to, I think, just quickly mention that in LA you got the dog. This is when the dogs started.
Yeah.
Do you have 2 dogs? Tell me about them.
They're amazing. I've got a lab shepherd from Mexico called Louis. I should have called him something more Hispanic, but never mind. My mum named him. And then I got a little spaniel terrier called Luna.
Oh, they both rescue?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And how, I mean, I know you absolutely adore them, you love them, and I love them, but do you think that was actually something very calming and great for you being out there and just in life?
Yeah, 100%. Like, so me and Lou, like the lab, because my ex and I got them together, and then he was going to take Lou back to Australia and couldn't because it's too difficult, which I totally understood. And I didn't want him to go, but we were going to, you know, take a dog each. And then when I was kind of relieved that I got to keep him, but it was hard because I was in an apartment that would only allow like a little dog. They were like, you're not allowed the dog here. And I was like, please don't make me give him up. I was going through a bit of a hard time, and then had like some anxiety stuff swept in again. I just remember like Louis was all of a sudden allergic to bees, and I had this awful moment when he just collapsed at a dog park, and I was like, this is a bee sting. And I remember like no one else was around, like threw his like body was so heavy in the back of the car, and like ran every red light to get to the vets. And they knew us because we'd been in for other things. I'm like, which dog is it? I was like, it's Louis. And they were like, if you'd have gotten here 2 minutes later, he would have died, like, because he was so severely allergic. And I was like, of course he is. But from that moment on, like, this is what I like to think, when he realised that I'd saved him, I guess, then we were like, had a completely different relationship. And when I was going through some mad anxiety stuff, he jumped up on the bed one day, and he's a cuddly dog, but he's not like in your face cuddly like Luna is. He's quite like chill and likes his own space. He jumped up, and I remember like crying, and I was trying to calm down. He jumped up and he like put his nose under my arm and like flung my arm off and put his chin on my chest and closed his eyes and just went, I was like, and I was sobbing, going, that's the most incredible moment I've had with him. But we didn't really have a close relationship before the bee moment.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, but it's more, do you know what, it's more that...
They're my children, I don't have kids, you know, they're my kiddos.
And it's more that thing, some people have different perspective on dogs and love them. People go, people are too, you know, attentive to them, this and that, but they do help a lot of people, amazing. And they are more loyal than humans, so I know how much they have helped you, and remember that, and how much you still adore them and love them.
I do.
And I do also remember that time, like, I don't mind saying, Kim, see you in LA, and it's the first, I don't mind saying, it's the first time I've ever seen you, and I was like, oh my god, like, I remember looking at you and going, that was really tough. I mean, it's fine because you're not there now,
right?
But all these things that we go through, and I've been there a few times in my life, but let's talk about, you did get to be on a DC show, which is like,
oh my god,
I mean, talk about nailing it and doing it, and tell us about your journey of that, because that's fascinating how what happened with that. I'm sure there's Legends of Tomorrow fans listening, so hello to all of you. Thanks for tuning in.
Got the best fan base, my god, they're amazing. So the Doctor Who stuff, right? I remember the breakdown coming through, and I didn't know what it was. I thought it was like a one-off. I didn't know what it was. And it was like, rush call, can you get this to us by 4 o'clock? It was like 2 o'clock. I'm out, I don't have my setup on me. And so I just did it on my phone. I remember it saying like sci-fi experience a plus. I was like, oh, this is good, because I've done Doctor Who, right? So they wanted me to tape for it.
Interesting. Oh yeah, I've been to an alternate dimension. Tick.
Tick the box. You get seen with this. Great. And I remember I literally auditioned for it in about, like, I had to really get it off quickly, and it was all of like 3 or 4 lines of what the AI character said. Put it in, and then like the following week they're like, oh, you booked that thing. Like, they didn't even know what it was. Didn't realise. And then my agent Arlene Thornton, who's a dream, she was like, oh, this is like a whole series. So you're going to be in every episode voicing the AI of the ship, basically. I was like, this is great, because I was still very fatigued and I couldn't really do anything fully still. And I was like, so lucky to get that. And again, that wasn't like a couple of months after, there's like years in between being out there. It's like 2016 by this point, so I'd been there since 2012. So yeah, 4 years of trying to get stuff. And then I remember going in for the first one. They're like, yep, there's 18 episodes, and then 7 seasons later, still doing it.
And you actually got to actually be in it as a human form, and which was amazing, really, and well deserved. And I'm so pleased you did. So, talk about that experience of being, I suppose, like little guest stars in that. And it must have been quite intimidating, really, because you were the only regular cast member that wasn't with the other
Everyone
cast
else.
members.
Yeah.
Because they were in Vancouver.
They were in Vancouver.
And you were in LA. I came to one of your recording sessions, actually, remember? Can you remember once?
Yeah.
And sat in,
Oh, with lovely Jeff. And his dog, Maggie.
Yes.
It was weird because, nothing really shoots in LA unless you're in, from what I was experiencing, unless you're in, studio, like, sitcom studio or live studio audience stuff. But I'd done one thing, Scorpion, a series, like one episode of that. But nothing else was shooting in LA, and I hadn't really got any major TV experience in the States. So in England, yes, like your soaps and bits and pieces here, but hadn't booked anything else. But I'd been auditioning loads. I've been testing, chemistry testing, and it was always going to a name, and we're getting right down for Superstore, which I remember thinking, if I don't get like even a little role in this, and then I didn't hear anything. We got the message saying, thank you so much, blah, 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 we've got it out to a name, we'll let you know. And I was in there for like 2 hours, and you're not in a room for 2 hours unless they're serious about you. And it never happened. And I'd had some really great opportunities, sporadic opportunities, but great opportunities, and tested, and then just like never got it because it always went to America Ferrera or Catherine McPhee, or it was one of those. Like Smash was another one I was in and out.
But it's so hard because it's like that thing of this is just the whole industry, like only looking for was a Western experience, but it's like, but then how do you get Western experience? Only looking for names, but if I don't get anything, how can I be a name? It just goes on and on.
It's about pulling whatever you can and going to do a short film, going to do whatever, like, and keep showing that you work, creating.
We were talking about this earlier today. Create your own work, make yourself a name, and then do it. It's the way. You've got
to bring it to the table as well. It can't all be about your agent doing it. Which is, I made that mistake for a while and then learnt very quickly. I was like, oh, it's not all on them. Like, you have to meet them in the middle. You have to bring stuff to the table. You have to work together on it. Or, like, there's too many people. They're trying to, unless you've got management and everyone working together, it's tough. There's a lot of people trying to do it. Yeah. So you have to be proactive
and quickly explain to everyone, because not everyone knows this. In the UK, on the whole, we just have an agent. But when you go to LA, you have an agent and a manager. Now explain that.
Yeah, so I didn't know that either till I went out, and it's more like a manager has a bit more time, less clients and more time to kind of read scripts and think, this would be really good for Matthew. Matthew, what do you think about this? Is this something you'd want to do? They try and shape your career a little more. I never got to that point really where we've had to do that. Yeah. But like, it's for when that comes, and they're trying to really make sure you're doing what you want to do, what will be good for you, what are you interested in. Yeah. Because it's great to want to do everything, but sometimes it's good to focus on, I want to do gritty drama like the rest of the world, but or I want to focus on comedy, like what is it, what are you wanting to do? And so they'll just take more time to so you've got them, you've got your agent, and you've got your other people and PR, and
it's just good people to know, because I think a lot of people don't understand that here.
It's knowing the difference, isn't it, between I'm like, what happens now? I get it. But I was like, oh, what's the difference? What do you do? And I've gone off on a tangent, sorry.
No, it's fine. That was my sidetrack. But okay, Legend. So you did a few. How many guest roles did you do it as human form? Up to season 6 or 7?
So because I tested so much for like David Rappaport and Lindsay Baldessari, I was testing for them quite a bit for like Arrow and things like that. They already knew me, so I think it was by the time the writers kind of, and they all spoke, and they were like, oh, because you get in that box like, oh, you're a voiceover artist. I'm like, I'm an actor. Yes. Like, I don't. What does that even mean? Like, it's like anyone that does musical theatre. You can do TV. Like, everyone can do the. Do you know what? Yeah. It's getting better, isn't it? It's much better now, I think. Yeah. And when I moved to the States, it was like, great, you sing, you do musical. That's amazing, great. For things like Smash, and Nashville was another one. They loved that. Of course, they want everyone to be able to do. Yeah. All of that, but so
guest
What
stars.
was I saying? Yeah, so because of that, they wrote me in knowing that I'd be able to do it, I guess. And it was like 1 episode a season to kind of be a bit of a thing for the fans. They were like, oh, Gideon came to life or whatever. And then it became, they did it every year. And then the lovely writers that I got closer and closer to just became friends. And they were like, you need to be in this.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, look, you know, I don't know how they're going to make that happen.
No.
And then all of a sudden, I was in Mario's class, lovely Mario Campanara, MC Squared. Great studio. Go train there.
Go.
Oh, he's incredible. We've both been in his class, and it was during one of those Zoom lessons. We're in a break, and I just checked my email, and it was from my voiceover people saying, we've had this call from the network saying they want you to basically move to Canada in 3 weeks and be in it for like 6 months, but you can't come home in that 6 months. And I was like, I immediately went, Sam and family and the dogs, like, that's great and that's really exciting, but then there's the other side of it. Of course it's an amazing opportunity, and I really wanted to go and experience it because I wanted to tick that box for me.
Was this 2021 or 2020?
2021.
Yeah.
And I remember going, oh, I know what that means, being away like that from everyone. And I was worried about my mum, and she was like, you've got to go and do it, Aim. Like, you're always gonna regret it if you don't.
All would have, none of us would have let you not go.
I know.
But we also
lucky.
did get it. I mean, you were in Canada, and they're one of the strictest places.
You couldn't do anything
with lockdown.
Yeah. So there was no coming home. There was no like getting the dogs over. There's no Sam visiting and mum or So.
But yeah, again, how just another thing, like you finally get to be a season regular in a show, and you get to go somewhere, and you can't do anything but do the show because you're in lockdown. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was fine.
You want to be. I know you're going to sit and go, oh no, I'm so grateful we got to do it. I'm like, yeah, you did, but had you got to do it and COVID hadn't happened, how different your experience would have been.
Yeah.
But then
you
may have stayed there longer, and
Yeah, well, the shows around us were getting shut down. Riverdale got shut down, and we were like in the vicinity, not far from them, and we were like, oh god, we're gonna get shut down, like. But we never did. We got through the whole 6 months with no one in our zone getting COVID. Other people like in other zones, which didn't affect cast on set. So we managed to get through it, which is bonkers.
Yeah, we haven't even mentioned Vancouver, by the way. We haven't even said.
It's a beautiful city.
It is. I love it. And
it's lovely.
What was your experience of Vancouver and living there? I mean, it's, as I said, it was mainly, unfortunately for you, just sleeping and working.
Yeah. The schedule was bonkers. I mean, I actually had, I started my directing journey on it. And so there was one episode where I was in loads vocally, voice-wise, but I wasn't actually in it in physical form. So then I ended up being able to like start that journey and shadow Eric Dean Seaton, who's an amazing director, done loads of Modern Family and amongst a gajillion other things. Like, I couldn't believe I got to shadow him. So instead of taking that time, I could have like bopped around Vancouver. I was like, no, I need to study because this is an amazing opportunity. So I don't really do too much around Vancouver, but I got to see bits.
Yeah. And by this time, you've also moved back to the UK. We should actually say.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is when you're starting to think about, I want to do directing as well, and this is what I want to do. Also, what's the episode of Legends that was it like the 100th episode?
Yeah.
Watch the 100th episode. I think that's probably the best episode if you want to see Amy in Legends, because it was your episode, really, wasn't it? In a way.
Well, I guess it's just how they're explaining Gideon fully being part of the team, and it was bonkers.
So when did this directing passion, excitement, that journey that you're on now happen?
It's been there for a while, but I just think that whole imposter syndrome thing, like, who do I think I am? I can't direct, and I'm like, just like working with friends, like as you do on self-tapes, I used to really, really enjoy it, and like getting somewhere with a tape and then people doing that with me, and like I love that. I just loved, anyway, so I think it kind of started there, and then through Mario's class and just working with him and just seeing him work was really inspiring. And then seeing the women on the show, 3 of our cast members came in to direct episodes as well. I was like, they were like, you need to shadow while you're here, learn while you're on the job, right? And then do your shorts. And then, so from then on, every job I've done, I've asked to shadow. And every director's been amazing, been like, of course you can, that's fine. Yeah. Because once you're kind of in it, it was easier with COVID, you're being tested, and then I could still be on set and study. And so I've been doing that a fair bit, and I've got some really great shadow positions coming up with Phil Barantini, who's done Boiling Point and Malpractice, and Lucy Forbes, who just did Eric with Benedict Cumberbatch, which comes out this year, which has a little part in. But just watching her work, and people are really kind. You've just got to ask the question and be brave enough to go, is it possible? And could I shadow you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so with where you're at, is your goal directing, or are you just completely open to whatever happens if acting work comes in?
I think, we all talk about this, don't we? Like, we love to be open to whatever comes our way. I think it comes your way for a reason, and then you're like, okay, what can I learn from this, or is this something I really want to do? But the directing excites me more than anything else at the moment.
Yeah. And is that, and you're writing as well? So are you more excited to write and direct your own work, or also take other people's work to direct as well?
Oh, take other people's work to direct, for sure. I wouldn't call myself a writer, because I've actually just shot something that worked so well. I mean, I had brilliant actors, Christian Solomeno and Louise Lee. Yeah. They're incredible. So of course, if you've got amazing actors doing your writing, you're like, I can write really well, and like, they smashed it. But I think it did work really well, and I think maybe I could explore that a bit more. I know you love your writing. You're so good at writing.
I love it. Yeah, but I'm still learning. I don't know if I'd call myself a writer. I just
but
don't.
Isn't that funny? We're both going, we can't call ourselves, but we've written.
I just don't find writing hard. It just kind of pours out of me. But then you also do have to have, as people are teaching me, you do have to have some sort of formula and work it in a certain way, or just.
Yeah.
To be honest,
that's what I struggle with.
Yeah.
Character stuff, fine, but then it's like the structure of it.
Yeah.
So that's when I need to be with someone, or I'd rather use someone else's talents there and direct that. Yeah.
And then a recent addition, you've gone, something that is amazing to do, and we should all share our knowledge, is you've started teaching, which we were just talking about this, like, we have to, at some point in our lives, pat ourselves on the back and go, you actually do have experience, you do know a lot, and you can help people and pass that on, which is the same thing with directing. I mean, I know you've only just really started doing it, but talk about your experience so far of teaching.
You know what, I was asked to do some like motivational talks, and I think the minute you've got to be yourself, but it's mad, even like between doing Sinead's lovely podcast and to now, I was saying this to Holly about the time in between, like I feel so much more relaxed now talking as myself, and there's some moments, I mean, obviously it's you, so it's very easy, and some moments I get in my head, but I definitely feel more like grounded and a bit more like, okay, I'm not trying so hard. Like I look back on things and I go, oh, cringe. Like what was I trying to be or do? But we all go through that. Yeah. But it's just an interesting learning curve, isn't it? You're like, oh God, what was I even doing? But yeah, so doing these motivational talks, I still had a moment of going, I've got to fill like an hour and a half, 5 times in a row. Like I'm really bored. Like who's going to want to listen to this? It's boring. It's not interesting. And I kind of wrote it all out, and it's okay to go, oh no, this is actually quite interesting. And for people that are training, I would have found all of our journeys really fascinating to listen to, right? And I remember people coming into arts and being like, oh wow, they've done that, and so how did that work, and how does that even happen? Or, like it was just... Yeah. So I went in feeling a bit angsty and nervous about it, and then within half an hour I was like, no, I do know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Like, well, they're there to learn. They are these sponges.
They're amazing.
Well, they should be. They're hopefully students that are like, give me knowledge, and I want to soak it all in and up. That's why they're there. So
yeah, I had a really fun day this week. Performers, and they did such good work, and that's when I was like, oh no, I am enjoying this.
Yes.
In like seeing the progression and seeing and acting through song work, and when they finally go, oh. Yeah, like that works for me. That's what I can connect to. And,
well, it's just that thing of continually training, and going back to talking about MC Squared, which you got me onto. I learned more about acting in a few months than I have my whole life.
Right, and we're older now too, so we have more experience.
And
I think
I found it easier, I suppose, to absorb it. And accountability and all these things that we're taught, and just go, But also then I go, but I don't look back and go, oh, if only if I'd done this when I was 18, because I wouldn't have been able to take it on at 18.
There's never any point saying that anymore.
No.
Is there? There's no point going, I wish I'd like...
Oh, no. I know someone said that recently, if I could go back to college now knowing what I know, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, because you wouldn't know what you do now if you did that.
No. And it's a journey, so...
Accept it.
Yeah. This speech might have been a bit intense and serious, and trust me, just between us, we spend a lot of the time just being silly.
I know we do.
Like we just took a little, sounds so bougie, little trip to Soho farmhouse, and we just laughed.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the day, it's just all it's about, and stuff. And what's so nice, I think, with us, and I think we've finally got to that point as people and as friends, are, friendship groups where we're just going, let's go to France for a week. Let's not like, let me check my schedule. Really, it's just these things that we've started to do, and I must thank Eugene for it's just become like that as a friend to organise stuff and get together, and it's so important. I spoke about this to someone else that I think, I can't go on holiday, I might get an audition, all that stuff. And now we're like...
No, book a trip because you will get an audition.
Yeah.
And then you'll tape for it and then it'll be fine.
And the advantage of the industry now is you can do the tape while you're on holiday.
Yeah.
I did the last job I booked, my nephew, like 11-year-old nephew and my like 12-year-old niece filmed it and were in it with me and I got it. And it was dreadful, the camera was shaking, there was light coming across my face.
Yeah.
But that just made me go, there you go. Well,
some casting people have started to say that in their breakdowns. They're like, do not spend an age figuring this out. Like, as long as we can see you and hear you, it's fine. Like, people are realising like, there's bigger things in life.
And
they just need to see,
and I think if anyone does ask too much of you, just absolutely not. You're not getting paid for it. So
yeah. I can't do that.
It's free labour.
But I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So probably have to round off now, sadly. Right. But we've covered. I think we've covered it in a really good way. We could talk about this. Could be a whole biography. So which will come out in the future. Maybe in another 10 years. No, everyone hashtag everyone's story. Everyone's interesting.
Yeah, no, everyone is interesting. No, you're right.
But I always like to ask people if you could go back to Amy Pemberton, who's 17, and just starting art said, now, what would you say to her?
I'd probably use my dad's advice, which I carry with me to this day. And he always used to say this, but I don't think I used to listen properly until like final moments almost. He used to say to me, Aim, like next, get on with it, move on. Like, don't dwell on things so much. Things happen for a reason. Yes, we can't always figure out what that reason is at the time. It's like, but just next. And he wrote that to me in one of a card that I received once he'd passed away. This is an uplifting thing, I promise.
Yeah.
I said this with Sinead, like, he'd written us these cards and that I was given on the day of the funeral, and it was like some beautiful things that he said, and then he just in massive letters he wrote next ! Like, never forget that, because he's just like, don't dwell on things so much. It's that, right? And then on his tombstone he's got KISS, keep it simple, stupid. I think I'd just like go, just keep it simple. Just don't need to overthink everything.
So real and so wise. And I could take that into my day yesterday when I was dwelling on something. It's such a good thing that I need to remember that every day. I mean, I need that written down somewhere every day.
I know. I want to get it tattooed here, but I'm a wuss.
Because we do dwell on things and just go next. And it's
easier said than done, though, right? It's not like it's just easy to do in every moment, but it's something to...
And it also teaches you not to overreact in every situation, which is something I've had to learn, I think.
Yeah.
So,
I get that, So that's what I'd say to myself, I think.
And I think, that would help you with all the pressures and...
Because I need it to be simple. My brain can't cope with... It needs to be like, next, keep it simple. That's just helpful for my brain. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what I'd say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was really fun. I love you. How do I get past this?
Thank you. And then...
You're very good at... Oh, sorry. You're very good at this.
Ah!